Hey everyone, we are recording another interview for the book launch podcast series of Letting Go of Your Food and Weight Obsession, a guide for the woman who wants more for her life. The series is called Strategies for Letting Go of the Food and Weight Obsession, and today's topic is a recovery conversation, the food issues behind treating alcoholism. And today's guest is my friend Sherry Hoppen. We met at the Meredith Writers Conference and we instantly clicked. We found out that we were both on the path to recovery, and it looks a little different, but it's okay. It's awesome to have someone that's doing it different, but to know that path, it just shows that we all have our own unique way of doing it, but we're doing it, So I'm going to give you a brief bio, and then we're going to get her story and then talk a little about the food stuff. So Sherry is a Christian wife, mother, grandmother, and recovering alcoholic. She writes and speaks about overcoming the shame of being a Christian woman entangled in the nightmarish secrecy of addiction. She is the founder of She Surrenders, a ministry to help women confront and surrender the secrets they shamefully hold close. Through this ministry and the She Surrenders podcast, Sherry aspires to help women find freedom from alcohol and other addictive substances and behaviors. She is the author of the book Sober Cycle, where she chronicles her addiction to alcohol as a woman of faith and all the things she tried to escape the grip of alcohol before she discovered the power of surrender. So, here she is. I love that you point out shame because it's that icky thing behind our addictions that nobody likes to talk about.
Absolutely.
Let's just pretend it's not there, but the thing is that's why you drink and that's why you eat. So, Sherry, why don't you tell us a little bit about your story of recovery from alcoholism, and then we'll get into the food stuff.
Okay. Well, first of all, Meredith, thanks for having me.
Yeah, sure.
I remember when we met as well, and in fact, people tried to talk to us while we were having that first conversation, and I remember thinking, almost holding my hand up, back off. Okay, we're talking. And it was great. And so it was great to meet you there. And we both got our start there. So Anyway, but my story, in fact, when I first met you, I was just starting to talk about being an addict. At that writers conference was the first time that I said, I want to write about my journey in addiction as a Christian woman. And that was hard to say. And I thought I better get used to it, because if you can't say it, you can't write it.
Yep.
And so I would say that alcohol ran my life for about at least 10 years. Mm-hmm. And I spent a lot of time trying to figure out on my own how to do this and how to get through it or moderate, or how can I keep alcohol in my life, go back to the way I used to drink, and nobody will ever have to know. And everything I did ended with that sentence, and nobody will ever have to know. And you can only hide something like that for so long. And, your actions, are obvious. And I look at some of the things I did a lot of crazy, stupid things to try and get over it so nobody would ever know, when really just going and talking to somebody, or maybe even going to church, and instead of sitting in the pew of shame for an hour, maybe reaching out there. But I didn't do any of those things. And I did, my book chronicles a lot of the crazy things I did, including the word cycle in my book comes from signing up for a fundraising bike ride from Michigan to Texas. And I wasn't a bike rider. So it just really portrays how desperate I was, because I was more willing to do that than get the help that I really needed. Mm-hmm. And I was always that kid that was like, I can do it by myself. And that carried into adulthood, and that didn't serve me well. So when I did finally sober up in my surrender moment, I still was quiet for a long time until I spoke at a small church event in my area, which was terrifying. But I did it. And by the time I got home, I had a few emails that said, me too. How did you do it? And can we talk? And that's where the blog started, and then a website, and then eventually the book, and now a podcast. It's my life. It's what I do. It's my full-time job. Yep. And I couldn't be more happy that God chose me for this, even though it was hurtful and it hurt a lot of people along the way. totally restored so many relationships and brought so much joy into my life that I would have never been able to experience had I not gone through that hard thing.
I always say it, but it's true. He makes the broken beautiful if you are willing, and it's beauty for ashes. It's he just Isaiah talks about that. I even think I wrote it down. 61 verse 7. Instead of your shame, you shall receive a double portion. It's that whole year of the Lord's favor, and that chapter in Isaiah helped me so much earlier in my recovery because I needed to hear that they will be called oaks of righteousness. The shame, I mean, because I had so much shame, didn't know what.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And shame still likes to creep back in,
Yes.
And I always say shame and guilt. And the other day I was thinking about that and I thought, are guilt and shame actually the same thing? Kind of.
Very related.
Yeah, very related because shame keeps you quiet and guilt makes you overcompensate. That's what I was thinking. That guilt makes me do things that I don't want to do, but I feel like I'm supposed to because I'm guilted into them, either as a wife, a daughter, a mother, a friend, and so I'm learning a lot about boundaries in this season of life and protecting, my work and what I want to do, but also trying to be available for, my grandsons and my kids and all the things. So I'm always work in progress.
Yes. Well, and I think the guilt goes into people pleasing too.
Oh, for sure.
That whole, like, I just did something this weekend where my husband was like, you need to be minimizing your schedule, not, and I'm like, oh, you're so right. But I was like, oh, I did this because I wanted that person to like me,
Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes we have to differentiate between, are we doing that for us, for that reason? Like I want this person to be happy, or because I'm obligated. Like we were gone for almost a week, moving our youngest to another state, and came home and I had one day to turn around and have a bridal shower for 25 people. And
oh my God.
I mean, that was really the only time that it worked, for the bride, the most important person. But I'm like, I love entertainment. I absolutely, me, it's like, I love doing that. And restaurants in my blood. But I did not enjoy the preparation for this like I normally did because there was so much pressure. And I thought, I had a great time at the shower and I'm so glad I did it. But later on, I thought, how could you have done that differently? And that's what's new in recovery.
Yes.
Being able to go, I did that. It's okay. But how can I do it differently next time? I don't want to keep making the same mistake over and over.
Yes.
So,
it's that, life is balance, but there's never going to be a perfect balance. So it's like, and yeah, different things take different priorities. And you and I both have very full lives of family and work. They're both hugely part of our lives. And so it's like, how do we balance that in recovery? And it almost makes me more grateful for recovery because if I didn't have it, woo!
Yeah, I always say that too. Like, who would I be if I hadn't gone? I know I would be very shallow. I'm not gonna lie. I know I would be shallow and all about things. Now, don't get me wrong. I still love things.
Oh yeah.
I love things. I love, to me, shoes are art. I'm not going to go to an art gallery. I'll go to a shoe store. But, I feel like a lot, those things don't bring me joy. But when I am selective, that's another thing that I've learned. Like, it's not about acquiring. It's about, making, good choices and what I surround myself with. And so that part is better, but I think that I probably would not, I think I'd still be a fake Christian.
Oh, that's such a good term. Yep.
Yeah, I'd still be a fake, making sure everybody saw exactly what they needed to. Well, you go through something like that and then go public. Everybody gets to see your flaws. And it's liberating because I no longer have to act perfect in front of anyone. And to me, the shame part too came in with, we've got a family business in our community. We know a lot of people. My husband and I have both lived here our whole lives. And on the outside, I'm sure, in fact, I know because people have said it to me, it looks like we had everything. And we had life,
you perfected.
But they didn't know what was going on behind closed doors, and our life was hell for a couple, for a good chunk of that 10 years. And our marriage was at its ending point when I quit drinking. And I didn't know if it was, if we were going to be able to recover it. And actually, I wasn't even thinking about that. All I was thinking about was just quit drinking first. Just quit. Don't try and fix everything. And, it did. But that showed me that there's other people, a lot of other people. No family is perfect. There's a lot going on behind closed doors. And how can we be available to help love each other through this? And the mission statement I worked for pro-life Christian Pregnancy Center for years.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah, and their mission statement was loving people through life's most important choices, or there was a tag about loving people in crisis, and I've always remembered that. That's because awesome. It's just a good way to do life. And even when somebody makes me really angry or offends me, I just have to think about, okay, old Sherry would have called 10 people and told everybody how awful that person was to her. But new Sherry's just going to take a deep breath and go, I'm just going to give her grace because I have no idea what's going on in her life today.
Exactly.
But that's 75% of the time.
I was going to say, it's not always
not perfect. No. Yeah. Sometimes I just wait till my husband gets home and give him an earful. And then, but yeah,
you got to vent to your husband. And then for me, it's like, okay, and then go to God and be like, okay, I got to clear my side of the street. Where am I at with this? And okay, it's not about me,
Yeah. And not only do you learn to give other people a pass, you learn to give yourself a pass.
Yes.
I don't do everything perfectly. And the things that I used to beat myself up for that were so not important, it baffles me. And now if I'm beating myself up over something I know that I could have done better or made a better choice about. But I love, Lamentations. It's new every morning. I get to start over, and that's a privilege.
Yep. And all we get is, that's the other thing, is I know a big thing in my before recovery was the fear of the unknown, and and trusting that, not that it doesn't come back, but trusting that just got to worry about today. I just got to get through today and do what God wants me to do, and seek wisdom, and not expect that I'm going to get, my to-do list can be long and I don't always get it done, but I can give myself permission to, fine, relax. You're not going to get it all done,
Yeah, so I'm really into the bullet journal. Like,
I think I've seen that.
Oh, I just love how everything's, I mean, I'm a very messy, chaotic person. So to have to write little things down and in between little dots is really, it's a good exercise for me. But there's a page in here where every month you list some habits or some practices that you want to do every day. And the next day you get to cross them off. And at the end of the month, you count them up. So, with my ADD brain, I usually do really good, like the first 10 days of remembering to fill it out. And, then I'll pick it back up and go, oh, you were relaxed on that. But it's fascinating to me. But what I put down for the month of May, that was probably not the usual thing, besides the, get my steps in, drink my water, my journal time. I put 20 minutes of kindness to myself. And
like that,
whether that's 20 minutes of a brainless, Netflix show, or reading a book, or just brainlessly scrolling on Instagram, it's 20 minutes, and I have to set a timer because once I get in it, I'd like to stay there. Yeah. And the other one was, did I do an act of kindness for someone else today?
Very good.
Like Sunday, I was filling it out and I was like, oh, did I do anything yesterday? And I remembered that I helped an old man put something in his trunk, and then I took his cart for him. And I didn't think anything of that, but I was like, that counts.
Oh, yes, it does.
And it's reinforcing who I want to be here, because we're all representatives. We're all representatives.
We're all ambassadors. Yep.
Yeah. So,
and that's like everything we're talking about here. We're about to talk about food, but everything we're talking about is part of recovery. These are the things that you replace your addictions with. And I keep saying that my book is not necessarily about food and weight. It's more about freeing yourself from the distraction and the attachment to the food and weight, allowing God to use you as a vessel. And I think that the food and alcohol can be so related. I mean, just, and people just don't think, oh, because you can't get drunk on food, it's not a problem. And it's like, yeah, thank you. It's like the permissible addiction. And, it's not about, okay, somebody's obese or somebody's overweight. It's what it does to your soul. It's what it does. I had a ton of shame around not just my body, but just the way I ate and just how all over the place my food was. And so I don't know, you want to tell me what your thoughts are on the connection? And
well, I will tell you that something you said just made me think of this, that I'm different in recovery because my thoughts are kinder, not only to myself, but to others, because I was remembering that the person that I was while I was still drinking or before I got into recovery was, I would see, a large, very overweight woman trying to run. And sarcastic, mean Sherry, I was a mean girl. In my mind, I'm like, maybe that's not what you should be doing, or that, give it up, sister. Now, if I see someone running that's heavy, when I'm driving, I want to open my window and go, you go, girl, you get it, and I don't, but I might say a prayer for her that she feels like she's worth it to take the next step, and, all the things. So that there's a kindness that comes around with it. But when I first was trying to quit drinking, someone said to me, oh yeah, I get it, because it's like, being on a diet, like you can't have that brownie. I go, listen, this sucks. It's much harder because I can never have that glass of wine. But I said, you can have that brownie and you're okay to still get behind the wheel of a car and not hurt somebody. Your words are not going to be vicious because you ate a brownie. You're not going to get, there's not going to be a family intervention because you had a brownie. So don't tell me that. Now that was then. Now that I'm in recovery, I look at it and go, food's harder. Because as hard as it was to moderate the alcohol, it did not work. You have to eat. And every time you eat, it's a decision and it's a choice. Now I do with food. One of the things I learned is, so I was not one of those people that said, I quit drinking and lost 20 pounds. And I hear that and I just want to hit that person, because I'm like, I quit drinking and I gained 20 pounds, which is 100% truth. Because I kind of went from one thing to the other. And also, I did go to AA, for a little bit, and everybody was like, there was so much sweets there, eat the candy, eat the donut. You're not, as long as you're not drinking. And I heard that and went, you're right. As long as I'm not drinking, I'm going to eat everything in sight. And, like we'd be out for a business dinner where they take forever because everybody's having a before dinner cocktail, then a during dinner, and then an after dinner. And I'm like, when she says, do you want to see the dessert? Does anyone want to see the dessert menu? And everybody's like, oh no. I'm like, bring it, sister. I want all the pages, like not just what's on special, and I would eat the dessert. And now sometimes I still do that, but I don't justify it as I deserve this.
Yes, exactly.
It's like, you know what, if you want it, and it's really good, eat as much as you want of it. But if you just want to taste it, it's okay to walk away from it. And I guarantee you my husband will finish it. So, there's always that. But I've just had to learn a lot of new boundaries around food, around anything. That's anything I do can be addictive. I'm just a highly addictive person. And if I like something, I'm all in. I mean, I wanted to start bike riding. Some people might just, go for a few miles, maybe ride with their husband. No, I went 1,000 and killed myself doing it, and it's like, set some reasonable goals. And so I try not to have a lot of boundaries around food. Something I have learned though is, I'm alone all day. I eat the same thing every day.
Yep.
It's just easier. I don't need to take time to wrestle with decisions about what to eat. My menu is very limited. I do get into trouble if there's no meal planned at night, because just like talking each other into drinking, or, if your spouse is trying to quit too, we can talk each other into, pizza with garlic bread delivered instantly, or anything, Uber Eats or whatever. But planning is very important. And if the easier I keep the planning, the better off I am. But also not to set myself up to, be so hard on myself. And this past year, I've had a health scare over, diabetes and some heart things. And that scared the crap out of me. And my doctor, who I just love, she said, sadly, or she said, you can look at it as a positive. You can turn this around with food.
Yeah, totally.
A lot of food caused this, your poor choices, especially the white stuff, the sugar, she said, you have the power to change that. And I felt empowered. And it was the first time I'd ever felt that way. And so over the last, since January, I would have been like, if someone took, so with these new choices, which I'm not always perfect with, husband was gone last night. I ate Hershey Kisses in bed. I don't care. I'm good. And, would I do that the day before a blood test? Probably not. But, I also, today's brand new. I'm not beating myself up for it. Nothing changed except the learning curve. I used to do that every night, or every weekend night. And now it's just a once in a while, what, I just get to.
Yeah.
But it's been empowering, because before it was always about weight loss. Anything I changed in my habits was about weight loss. And now it's about, I can do better than this. And I want to do better than this. And so I've lost 15 pounds in, 5 months.
Good.
Now, if someone would have told me that you're going to lose 15 pounds by June 1st, I would have been like, no, Sherry loses 40 pounds by June 1st. Yeah. Game on, but that wasn't working for me anymore. My age is in my face, about that, hormones, metabolism, all the things. And it's not working. And I have done a lot of damage to my body over the years. So I'm trying to appreciate it more. But now losing some weight, that's like a bonus. I'm like, oh, that's cool.
Totally.
Yeah. And I'm happy about it. But I'm also, if I get to the, I'll have days where I find myself obsessing about it. Did I drink, was that my 4th bottle of water, or was that 80 ounces or 100? It's does that really matter?
Yeah.
No, just drink the water. Yeah. Drink what you can, so I'm learning.
Yeah, you are learning. There's so much good stuff you're learning. And it just shows me, just like the alcohol, we each have different paths with our food. But there were things that you said, it's no longer no longer I deserve it. I get to have it. It's, what was the other thing you said? Oh, losing the weight is a benefit, and you have structure. And that's the thing, is my book, I talk about kind of structure, and I talk about something called a food plan that you get from a nutritionist, but it's more, it puts structure instead of a diet, because when we're in the diet, we think we have all this control over the food, and it's then we're obsessing about it,
Right.
And it's all we think about. And am I eating the right amount of food to lose this much weight? And when you take your hands off it and give it to God and just do the routine that helps you, He's going to do it. And that's exactly what happened to me. I lost 50 pounds over the course of, actually, it's been probably a year and a half. And I'm game. Because you know what? If that's, somebody asked me the other day, so do you want to lose 10 more? I'm like, I don't know. If that's what happens, if that's what the Lord wants, then okay. Yeah. But I'm not, I don't know.
And that's empowering, because, and I started going to a new doctor, and I just love her, because she was like, I thought she was going to give me a diet plan, and I had a lot of blood work, and there was a lot going on. And she's like, I'll see you next month, but get 35 grams of fiber this month. And I was like, that's it? She goes, yeah, drink your water, try and get 80 ounces. I'm like, okay, which for me, I left there going, well, this is not going to work, because that's not the way I do things. And you know. I went back and I'd lost a few pounds. I'm like, yeah, 3 pounds. And she's like, that's wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like,
It
that's
really
not
is.
enough. So it's been quite the transition, because the
It's
next month
humbling.
I went back, and yeah, slow is good.
It
It's
is.
going to stay off. And I'm also learning, you know, how to do life better with that. And so is my husband.
Yeah.
And we're not going to be these, you know, incredible health kick people, at least not publicly.
Yeah.
No, we're not going to be at all, because we still like treats, and we still like to eat. We will ride bike for ice cream cones, no problem.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, and that's with recovery too. Like, I tell women in my groups that today, just don't drink.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to I have someone that's struggling right now with you know, like thinking too far ahead.
Oh yeah.
Just for today. I said, or just say just till dinner, you know, and then reassess, reevaluate, or hour by hour, whatever you need to do. Short-term goals lead to long-term success.
Yes. It's surrendering the outcomes to God, who has the outcomes, and he's already knows the outcomes anyway. So it's like, why would we obsess about it? You know?
Exactly. And I got better things to do.
I know.
You know, it's happened. This has actually happened. I have forgotten to eat because I'm so like obsessed with what, you know, or so into what I'm working on that day, especially if I'm writing. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I became one of those people that forgot to eat. Yay. You know, like that never happens.
Yep.
And I was always starving myself.
Yep. Because you're so in life, and you know, I always say when I have better boundaries around food, I have better boundaries around everything in my life. When I have better boundaries around alcohol, food, it's easier. Do I always have perfect boundaries? No, but it's easier to navigate them and catch myself and go, oh yeah, you know.
Oh yeah, because everything you learn from one thing, like alcohol, you can apply it to other things, and you do have to tweak it. It's not the same thing, like I said, you know, because you do have to eat. And, you know, we talked a little bit about this before. It's changing your script. Exactly. It's not expecting the same thing to work for one that works for another. I used to beat myself up and be like, good Lord, girl, you quit drinking. That's like one of the hardest things to do. Why can't you quit freaking eating peanut M&Ms? You know, why are you buying industrial $10 bags instead of, why can't you buy the little ones like everybody else, you know? And I would just beat myself up about that but I had to change the script, because what worked for alcohol, cutting it off, wasn't going to work for food. Yeah. And that had to be a gradual thing.
Well, and that's what's funny, and that's a good thing to end on, because like for you, I hear that you having like an ice cream cone here, an ice cream cone there, it's fine. And I did that. I was no sugar, no flour for the first 3 years of recovery. And then my father died. And then I kind of let myself have whatever. I'd have ice cream with the kids, or I'd have a cookie. But for me, it kind of kept me, because it was my first addiction. So it was part of the whole thing. So for the last 2 years, I haven't had sugar or flour, but I'm okay with, if my husband has, like the fact that you do, that's your boundary. My boundary is not having the sugar or flour. Yours, you have a little. I think that's awesome. Like one of my girlfriends, my best friend is a baker. She bakes. And she'll be like, oh, I just wish you could do. And I'm like, I don't wish it. It is what it is. And I love my sanity more than I want to try one of your cupcakes and then have to have them every day for the next 8 months.
And I'm grateful for that, because I don't get to do that with alcohol.
Yeah.
But you know, I do now. My husband and I, when he retires, he's always said, just want to have a little donut shop by the beach and have it be a people's happy place. And I'm like, yeah, that's probably not any better than me saying, I just want to be a bartender someday. You know, I said, that's not a good fit for us. Yeah. So you do have to know your boundaries. But I did want to say too, another thing about the weight, you know, the mind game that it plays is with addiction. With alcohol, I could hide it. And, you know, for the most part, find out later, there's a lot of things that people knew that I didn't think they knew.
You think you're hiding.
Yeah. But the weight gain, to me, that's mortifying, because you cannot hide that. You cannot hide it. The pictures, you know, you look at a picture and go, oh my gosh, you know, like Do I have,
Yes.
distorted views of myself because I didn't know I was that big, or whatever. But you let it define you,
Oh, you so
you
the
know, and
shame,
you,
the shame. It's
yeah, like
yeah.
I did not, the first year of COVID, people were talking about how much weight they gained and stuff. And I'm like, what's your problem? Well, second year for Sherry was weight gain. And I was like, COVID ended. And I'm like, oh, great. Now I'm supposed to go out in the world. And no, I just wanted to hide.
Yep.
And it was a hard season
Mm-hmm.
because I caught I did a lot of the things that I used to do, pretend it didn't matter to me,
Mm-hmm.
and feed the very problem that was causing the problem.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like drinking. We tried to quit drinking, and we drank to pretty much make all those feelings go away. So we tried to treat ourselves with the very thing that was causing the problem, and we do the same with food.
Yep.
Um,
And in recovery, we have to feel the feelings and not pick it up. And it is the hardest thing to do. Like, yeah, we have to face, I always say with food, we have to face the beast every day, multiple times a day. But
mm-hmm.
we also have to face the feelings and, just, okay, they're going to pass. I just got
Yeah,
to feel this and then
yeah,
I'll move on to the next thing.
yeah. I remember a time my grandson, I had quit sugar. In fact, it was probably one of the times that I talked to you because I was like, oh my gosh, Meredith's been doing this for like 6 months or something. And my little grandson was trying to shove a cookie. He was sharing his cookies. He was trying
Oh,
to
yeah.
shove it in my mouth. And rigid Sherry is like, Mimi can't have that, and he's 2. He keeps trying,
Mm-hmm.
Finally, I let him. And I thought about that little tiny mini cookie for hours. Like, I screwed up. I've totally messed up.
Yeah.
Like, great. It's not even worth keeping going, and pretty soon I was in the kids' drawer getting the whole bag of cookies for myself, But I look back on that and I'm like, what a sorry way to live.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot bigger things I can beat myself up for if I'm going to do that than a mini Chips Ahoy.
Yeah, yeah, you can't beat yourself up and it's funny because I try not to beat myself up about not having that. Like when Ellie's like, "Here, mommy, put this in your mouth," and I'll just kind of take it and put it
Yeah.
down. But I beat myself up like, "Oh, I'm a bad mom because I can't have it." It's just like, no, I still get to love on my daughter and not have it. And but again, that's a boundary I've had to learn. You
Mm-hmm.
know, and
Yeah.
it's kind of like when you hear people say, "How am I going to have a wedding and not drink?" You know.
Oh, I've got one for you. So my daughter was 14 or 15 when I started to, like, this is my youngest, trying to stop drinking. And when I quit, she was 17. And I was like, how am I going to quit? Because how am I not going to drink at my own daughter's wedding? Well, she was in high school. I should not have been concerned about that. But I will tell you that approximately 7 years after I quit drinking, 6 years, something like that, that wedding happened. And it was truly, I loved all my kids' weddings, and didn't get into trouble with the other two, but booze was on my mind. Don't
Oh
get
yeah.
me wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But I was so free that last wedding.
You were present.
I was present, and the
Yep.
joy, I just couldn't stop. I'm beaming the
Yep.
whole day. And I danced with my husband, and I loved him more than I ever did.
Ah,
It was just
love it.
the best day. But I thought I should wait to quit drinking for at least 7 years because someone's going to get married. What if she would have never gotten married?
I have no idea what day that is, but that day is coming and I need to.
And what am I going to do? And when my husband did a toast and I raised my glass of soda water,
Yep.
I could have cared less.
Yep.
It was about his words. It was about the people I was with.
Never. Yeah.
Never. Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly.
And it's funny because at my wedding, I was like amazed. I got like a double cone because it was up in Leland, and we had got everybody free ice cream at the ice cream shop on Friday night, and I got a double scoop of ice cream. And at that time, I was like, "This is awesome! I get to be at my wedding and have this ice cream, and I get to have this cake." And I don't beat myself up today for having had that because it's like, you know what? I enjoyed it. It was part of it, and it just. Yeah. It's that whole being gentle on yourself in recovery, being kind to yourself, to treating yourself. I have a friend that says, treat yourself like a delicate flower,
Yeah.
like.
Yeah. I mean, there's so much joy to be found
yes.
in recovery of any kind. And like it's about finding the balance. I'm sorry, there's not a wedding I go to that I no longer think about the fact that everybody else is going to be drinking there. I think about, wonder where that cake's going to be from. And if they're one of those brides that doesn't have cake,
a good cake,
I'm like, what are you thinking? That's not even fair. Like, why would you do that? You know, and they have little pies. I don't like pie.
Yeah, or they get really stale cake, thinking no one's gonna eat it.
No one's gonna care. I'm usually so if they have like something else, but they still do their little cake cutting, I'm the one wondering, are they gonna serve that little cake? Like, are we gonna be able to eat that too? Or, how does this work? But no, I'm all about the cake. I'm all about the cupcakes, you name it. But balance, because I don't go home and eat all those cupcakes.
Yeah, you don't bring a wedding cake home.
Well, I mean, I might have, but it was offered, so
yeah.
No. But
our wedding, I was like on the hunt to find like the best tasting cake, and we found some lady in Traverse City doing it out of her house, and it was like a mocha cake, and it tasted so good. But Mike and I everybody ate it all. There was like nothing left for us. The only one we had was the one when you feed each other. It was, and then we were like, can you just make sure you save some for when we go home? And it was literally like half a piece. And we were like,
oh, that's so disappointing.
Because it was so good. Everybody just ate it.
Yeah. Well, my daughter that got married a couple years ago, my best friend, who was the mistress of ceremonies, ended up taking their cake and putting it in their freezer because the kids were leaving on their honeymoon or whatever. But so she found it, like 2 years later. And my daughter's like, just dump it. And I'm like, wait, that was good cake. Like maybe we should at least see what it's like, and they're like, no, we're dumping it. But, I think of our wedding cake. I have no idea what it even was. I just remember that it had to be elaborate and had little fountains and, total 80s cake. It wasn't about what it tasted like. Now I'd be like, hey, give me a plain white cake. I don't care about any of the rest of it. But
that's so funny. That's so funny because now I'll make cakes for the kids for their birthdays or Mike, and I'm amazed that I'm just like, I don't even have to lick this, and like it's like my friends will be like, how do you do that? I'm like, I don't know, because it's for them, and I enjoy not having sugar. I enjoy watching them enjoy it, and that they appreciate that they know that I don't have it, and they're like, wow, awesome, like you really put effort in. It's like,
no, it's so true. It's so true. Anybody can buy a cake. But if you can make it, but that's the opposite with drinks. I will not buy booze for someone else to enjoy in my home or anywhere else. You go get it yourself. I'm very specific about what can come into my home. There's been beer, sometimes wine, and that was okay. But there's other times where I'm like, A, it will not be provided, and B, I don't want it. It's my, like say it's my birthday or, an event, for something I'm celebrating or my family is. For me, I'm like, oh, I get to choose the dessert, and I get to choose that there's no alcohol.
Yep.
And people respect that.
Yeah.
And it works well.
Yeah, so. We don't have any alcohol in our house, but we're both sober. We're both in recovery, so the kids understand that. But it's just how we are, and I know when the kids were in high school and they'd be like, we go to other people's houses and their parents drink. What is that? Because
it's everywhere.
Yep.
It's usually not the norm. And I used to be really paranoid about how other people felt.
I know
that my recovery, is it making everybody uncomfortable?
Yep.
So we would go out to dinner, and I would always say, with a group, I would say to my husband, you order first and order a beer so that everybody knows it's fine. And, in case they're wondering.
Yep.
And he'd be like, I don't want a beer. I'm like, just order a beer. So he would order a beer, and you could see everybody kind of just relax. Like, oh, we can order our booze. And now what? I could care less.
Yeah.
I could care less. I'm no longer making my husband drink the beer he doesn't want to, which, he's kind of glad about. But he's like, do you want me to order? I'm like, no, you don't have to order anything. If somebody feels that much of a need to have alcohol around me, so be it. But I don't. My choice.
Doesn't matter to me. That's their issue, not mine.
Exactly. Exactly. So
well, that's a good note to end on. Awesome conversation.
Always is with you.
Oh.
And I'm so anxious for your new book. And I wrote down like 3 things that I think we need to keep talking about.
Yes,
so
I was just thinking, I'm like, okay, I'm going to email you so we can schedule our next, the next one of these.
Yeah, we both are very passionate about what we do and sharing, to me, what works and what doesn't. Yep. Don't waste time with what doesn't.
Nope.
And don't waste time in life because there's too much life to be lived.
Yeah, exactly. And there is no there's no cookie cutter. We all have our own path,
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And recovery is possible for those who are listening. So
yeah, recovery from anything.
Yes.
Is possible.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. We will talk again soon. And good luck planning in the Maranatha. Sherry runs the Maranatha Writers Conference in last week of September.
This year it's September 22, and okay, I'm gonna do a plug since you opened that door. So
go for it.
Just go to MaranathaChristianWriters.com, and you will see all the information. We have an awesome keynote this year, Charles Martin, one of my favorite writers, and we're gonna tell you how to get your book published. Meredith, got to start there, and so did I.
Yep, and that's where we met. And then you want to plug your also your podcast and everything.
Yeah. So for my day job, or I call it, I don't know what job I should call it.
Your life job.
Yeah, my life job. I go to shesurrenders.com and you'll find a lot of resources. There's over 200 blogs up. Nice. There's information about our small recovery group called Joyful Surrender. And the She Surrenders podcast is there, which is also on, whatever podcast platform you use. But those are real stories of women of faith in recovery, because there's a lot of things you can find about recovery. And I encourage everybody to always use whatever tool works for you, but put the frosting on the cake and use your faith.
Yeah.
All the other things are great ingredients, but I always say surrendering and doing recovery with faith is your biggest tool. With God, that's the icing.
God's the guide. He's the best. He's the best part of it.
So, and I love speaking, and I love talking, and I love writing. So yeah, all the things. Check it out.
Why we're so close.
I know. Exactly.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Sherry. We will talk again soon.
All right.